Hi, I'm Mark Kuban, publisher of industry magazine Inside Film.
I'm Jackie Keast, the editor of Inside Film.
We're self-appointed experts in content and in making each other laugh.
Welcome to our podcast on the Tools, where we recommend things you should watch, listen to, read, or scroll through. This week, it's an episode all about love.
Love. I love love.
Everyone loves love. So we're going to talk about two books, Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You?
Alan Badiou, In Praise of Love.
TV show Starstruck, which is on the ABC.
And next Netflix film, Love Hard.
That sounds like a porn.
It does a little, but I can assure you it's not. Hump day. Yeah. On the tools. So what have you been reading? Actually, and I do have to say before we start, we got a tick off from our producer, Hugh, last week. And so this week we have to not smack our lips or say
Not saying you just said immediately after we're not allowed to say
I know, but it didn't say anything about drinking. So
if you hear ice cubes,
you know we're having a drink. So what are you reading?
I am reading Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. And I thought maybe because, before I get into this, I want to talk about why you and I came up with this idea for this podcast. And it was to sort of help people navigate a sea of content by sort of directing them to things they might have missed. And I guess in that conceit, I wasn't really sure if we were allowed to talk about things we're watching or reading that are like super popular. Like we've talked about whether we should talk about Succession because we're both obsessed by it, but like maybe everyone in the world is watching that show, so is that pointless?
And you did meet Sook this week.
I did. I went to the actors and Shiv was on the red carpet and I got so excited. I was trying to take a photo of her that I walked into someone doing an interview. So there may be a blooper roll of me on the internet as like some deranged woman just standing in front of a celebrity trying to take very unsubtle photos of another celebrity.
And you walked the red carpet.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just didn't know how else to enter the venue. And then I was on there with celebrities and stuck.
And then you received a COVID. What was the COVID text? It wasn't a good week.
No, I just everyone that went to the actors may have been exposed to COVID, which like Dave Hughes made a joke about on the stage that if you tested positive for COVID, you just had to not tell anyone and lie. And everyone laughed, thinking, haha, well, no one will have COVID here. Of course someone did.
Well, anyway, you've come up negative, which is a good thing.
Yes, I have. Though I did have a sore throat, so there was like a 3 hours before I got my test results where I went into a deep spiral.
And we had someone in the office as well test positive for COVID.
True.
So
right after our Christmas party.
It was a shit week.
But anyway, I guess going back to what I was saying, with this book, I thought, fuck it, I'm going to talk about this Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You?, which is probably one of the most anticipated books of the year. Like, there have been memes about it because there's so much branding that has gone in alongside this book coming out. So there's like a bucket hat, posters, bookmarks, badges, T-shirts, tote bags, pins. There was an enormous mural pop-up shop for it in London. All this kind of hype, which makes me start to feel like Sally Rooney books are maybe Harry Potter for women in their 30s.
Sounds like it.
But
I was going to ask you who Sally Rooney is, but
you're too old to know. It's for millennial women. But if you don't know who Sally Rooney is, she is a 30-year-old Irish writer and whose second novel, Normal People, was also turned into a very successful and very horny BBC Three Hulu series. Like there were Instagram accounts dedicated to one of the characters' chains that he wears when he's naked and having sex, and the only thing he's wearing is this chain. And anyway, it was released during the first lockdown where everyone was alone and horny at home. I guess there's a lot of sex in this show. It's really realistic. It's actually like it's the first time I've ever seen in a TV show where it felt like real sex. Anyway. And then Sally Rooney's first novel is Conversations with Friends, which is also becoming a series on BBC Three and Hulu. And speaking of Succession, Shiv Roy reads Conversations with Friends on the beach in the second season. So yeah, Sally Rooney is probably the most famous millennial writer in the world, and I naturally hate her because she's 30 and younger than me and already achieved so much. What a fucking bitch. but
we love her too.
But I was really excited.
And this series is about love.
It is all about love. And I was really excited about her new book because I really love Normal People, because it was about these two people that can't get together properly, but they find it impossible to stay out of each other's lives. And they're obviously deeply in love and they're the most significant person to each other, but they just infuriatingly can't make it happen because of enormous failures of communication. And I read it twice. I read the first time I read it, I read the first 80 pages on a plane to Melbourne. And I'm going to blame the altitude because I always seem to start weeping on planes. But I was going through kind of a hard time personally. I sat there silently weeping for half the plane ride. And I was trying not to make eye contact with any of the flight attendants. And then the plane landed. I had to run to the bathroom and I locked myself in the stall and I lost it. And I was crying like a fucking banshee. And then God help the women that were coming in and sitting next to me. Mark thinks that I cry all the time, but I don't cry at books like that often.
Well, you like a good weep.
You've been known to weep as well, so. But I also watched Normal People, the TV show, in lockdown as well in 2020, and I cried like a ball at the end of that too. It's just really relatable and it moved me. But anyway, what Rooney does really well, her books aren't plot-driven per se. They're more nuanced depictions of relationships, and her writing is really simplistic, but it's this stylish simplicity. And some people don't like her for that, but I do, because I think writing simply is actually really hard. There's an elegance to achieving that. So her new book, Beautiful World, Where Are You? It's kind of similar to her previous work in that, again, it's about four people and their relationships. So it focuses on these two women who are friends from uni and they're about to turn 30. One of them, Alice, is a famous novelist. So you start to think that she's kind of exploring her own fame through this book. And then Aline, who is a not famous editorial assistant at a literary magazine, and the men that they date. So Alice moves away from Dublin after she has a breakdown and she starts this sort of strange relationship with this guy, Felix, who works in a warehouse. And in my opinion, he's a pretty strange character. He's a bit of a dick. But anyway, Aline is in Dublin and she's sort of seeing but also not seeing Simon, this man that she's known since she's a child and is really her best friend. But he's sort of casually seeing someone else, but clearly into Aline. But Aline thinks because he's seeing someone else, he isn't really into her. And while she's obviously in love with him, she's kind of scared to lose him if they have a serious relationship and it goes wrong. And so the book sort of alternates between what's going on with Alice and Aline's lives, and in between the chapters are these really long emails that they send to each other where they discuss life and art and the impending social collapse of the world around us, along with all their romantic entanglements. And some of the emails are on the borderline undergraduate philosophy, but bear with it. And but then in the last third of the novel, all four of them finally get into a room together and all of their relationships with each other are kind of tested in that process. So it's a novel that dissects friendship and love and sex. I mean, as I was saying, there's always a lot of sex in Rooney's novels, and I sometimes think that sex in books can be cringe, but this isn't. Again, it feels realistic. But what this book is about is kind of grappling what is meaningful in our lives when the world is basically fucked, which is the perfect conundrum of our sort of COVID burning planet lives. I mean, we can dismiss love as trivial, but it's really all that's keeping most of us here and alive. And there's this there's this passage in one of Aline's emails to Alice that I thought I'd read because it kind of sums it up. And then she says, maybe we're just born to love and worry about the people that we know and to go on loving and worrying even when there are more important things we should be doing. And if this means the human species is going to die out, isn't it a nice way to die out? The nicest reason you can imagine. Because when we should have been reorganizing the distribution of the world's resources and transitioning collectively to a sustainable economic model, we were worrying about sex and friendship instead because we loved each other too much. We found each other too interesting. And I love that about humanity. And in fact, it's the very reason I root for us to survive, because we are so stupid about each other. I don't know.
I'm going to read that book.
Yeah,
I don't care what you say. I'm reading it.
I liked it a lot. I mean, maybe not as much as normal people, but it was good. And I didn't cry this time. I think I'm slightly more stable at this point in my life. But there were some parts where I had to put the book down and sort of, breathe. But there was no weeping.
Or maybe it was just you've been hardened by the COVID.
Possibly. The pandemic. Yeah, that's true. When I read Normal People, it was before COVID. And now, I don't know, I've become, I don't know, a raisin. But one thing I'll say, some people don't like Rooney because she doesn't use quotation marks around dialogue. But I feel like if that's something that stops you enjoying a book, then you're a bit boring.
Well, look, I've got a friend who doesn't use quotation marks or paragraphs or full stops or punctuation of any sort. He sends me a long email and it's laborious. Anyway, but it's funny. So I've read a book also. It's a book by Alain Badiou. It's called In Praise of Love. It's not a new book, but similarly to yours, it's a book about romance or the declining notion of romance, which is sort of perpetuated by online dating and hookup sites and to a lesser extent social media.
When you say romance, does that mean like courtship?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's love. So, typically online dating is promoted as an easy and risk-free alternative to actually dating. So the author came up with this idea when he was strolling through Paris and noticed posters advertising a French dating site. And he was troubled by the messaging. The site was promoting, itself with slogans like find love without chance and perfect love without suffering. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with online dating sites ask you a bunch of questions and then uses those algorithms to sort of match you up with people who meet your requirements. The idea is that if you avoid a lot of wasted time by going on dates with people you're compatible with. So like ordering a burger, you can be specific about what it is that's important to you. Things like, the right body type, ethnicity, the right job, if they even have a job, religion, or the right values. And the reasoning behind that is that if you have the fundamentals down, then you've probably got a greater chance of finding love without risk of disappointment.
But people don't know what they actually want. Like, it's not a tick box.
I think they do, and I think that's what he's getting at is that, the analog love, let's just call that, with the meaning of avoiding the digital dating world and apps and meeting people organically, whether it's through friends, work, gyms, bars, parties, however you meet them. But there's always that initial face-to-face connection. And, if you like them, then it becomes that giddy courtship dance. And look, the reality is finding a partner is a risky endeavour. Love is a risky business. You're rolling that dice and hoping that they are what they appear to be, and you become invested. And so in his book, he states that, dating sites are kind of promoting two basic myths around love. And I've got quite a few friends who I think are addicted to dating sites. They've got
I think it's like a game. Tinder is like a game.
Well, Tinder is that's not really a dating site. I think that's just a hookup site. But,
I know people that have they've met on Tinder. Most people I know met on Tinder now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the first myth is the skeptical position, which kind of says that, we call love is nothing other than sexual desire in disguise, that love is an illusion. It's just a trick our mind plays on us so that we fulfill an evolutionary purpose of having sex and reproducing. The second myth, which is perhaps more reasonable, is that love is real. However, they promote it as a form of pleasure and therefore not very important. The problem with the second myth is that it's completely self-obsessed, and he goes into it in his book. And basically he says that, if you're with someone because of how they make you feel, you're not really in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with yourself. And Badiou offers a third alternative, which true love is able to break us out of our lonely little pleasure-seeking bubble and helps us connect with something greater. new experiences, people, cultures, new relationships are all of that. It's kind of like this huge adventure. And I like where he comes from, because I kind of talking to my friends who do a lot of the online dating, it's almost like they've lost sight of the bigger picture, if that makes sense. So in one of his chapters, he focuses on the word love, where he discusses that, it's so powerful and sometimes difficult to say, but that those three little words are charged with so much intensity that it's difficult to say, and that the word has the power to bind two lives together. So it's quite a fascinating read. I like he's kind of got that French love thing about courtship, and he touches on a whole bunch of other things. But have you ever online dated?
Because we were talking about this the other day, and then I was like, no, I never have. But actually I did, which I forgot about, which is a really long time ago. Went on one date with one guy. We went to the movies. And it was totally that thing where he didn't look like his pictures. And from the first moment, I'm like, I'm not attracted to you, which is really superficial, but it just...
Yeah, but that's true.
That's
the cover of the book, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if there isn't any honesty at that early stage, I mean, what hope do you have?
But that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, when you plug in all those things and you just think, well, I want someone like this and I want someone like this. You're taking out that meeting just by chance or through a friend where you actually have chemistry, and that's kind of what hooks you in at the beginning. I mean, maybe it is that thing about how they make you feel, but you have this attraction to them. And to be honest, like, I don't think, he's got a good job or blah, blah, blah. Normally, if you really love someone, whether they tick your boxes is kind of irrelevant, I think.
Look, I don't want to date someone unemployed.
No, that's true. I mean, within reason.
Yeah, you got to have some of those prerequisites, but that's why that organic stuff, like through friends, for example, and I think that organic dating process is important, because you have friends and they have friends, and we're all like-minded, I guess. So there's already, I think, elements of similarity sort of built into those sorts of meetings or those relationships that you find through friends. I had a breakup years ago, and a friend of mine, Pauline, I went over for dinner, and she said, "I've got a gift for you." And I thought, some nice gift to mend a broken heart. And she gave me these 4 crumpled bits of paper and said, "They're expecting you to call them." It was full on. It was like, I found that very confronting, and I really stopped at the first date, because she was mad. Mad as gnats.
It's kind of like a blind date, which I've been on one blind date, and that was, again, because my friend lived next door to this guy who saw my photos in his photos on Facebook and said that he liked how I looked, I guess. We went on the date, and it was just, again, it was awkward. We didn't have any, we didn't meet organically, and it felt weird.
And I feel, and I have some friends who tick all those boxes, that they've got great jobs, they're really attractive, they're, intelligent, they cannot find love. And I feel sorry for them. So they go on the dating sites, and I think they're just completely disappointed. Then suddenly I think what happens is that it affects their self-esteem. Dating's a very funny thing, but, as the author says, there is risk. There's always risk in dating, putting yourself out there. But I think you have to put yourself out there to find that person.
Yeah, and then I guess there's also this idea that, people are afraid to get their heart broken and afraid of risk. But I think by getting your heart broken, it's not always a bad thing when you go into your next relationship. I think if you've had your heart broken before, you're a kinder person if you then go to break up with someone later. Like all that kind of stuff. And you learn about yourself through your relationships, which make you a better partner going forward. And you also learn what you want from a relationship. Like, obviously, you've learned you don't want someone unemployed. But, like, you learn about yourself, and, like, you learn a lot of stuff about yourself being single for sure as well. But I think how you relationships, you can, I don't know, they can bring out the best and worst in other people and in yourself, and through that, I don't know, it's just.
But don't you think that those people who go on online dating sites and do a lot of dating that they become desensitized?
Oh, I think so. And like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a game, and it's just something you do because you're bored and open and flick through it, and it's like you're not even really thinking about it. You're not really engaged. You have.
And look, and sometimes I think that that whole dating thing. Sometimes you'll meet somebody who you may not be attracted to initially, but over a period of meetings or a period of time, you do find they're compatible. And
well, that's true too. Like, if you meet someone through a friend and you keep meeting them, and actually there is something there, or you work with someone, or like there's all different things where that happens, I guess. And yeah, I know. And then Tinder, like one of my friends has like 2 lines, and he just has them copied in his phone, and then if he matches with someone, he sends them one of the 2 lines, and I'm like, this is the same conversation.
Is that the guy with the 2-tier friends at the party?
No.
Sounds like there's a theme going on there.
No, that guy is gay. But that is funny. Like, so if you think Tinder is a hookup app, apparently gay men obviously they use Grindr for hooking up, but if they're on Tinder, they're looking for love. So it's different.
Really? Anyway.
I don't know.
All you need is headphones.
So, and what have you been watching?
So we've been watching Starstruck, which is on the ABC. And I watched this during lockdown because in lockdown I couldn't stomach serious drama too much because I just needed to laugh to dull the pain. And one of these comedies was Starstruck, which is this BBC 3 rom-com created by and starring the New Zealand comedian Rose Matafeo, and it's on ABC iView here. It's kind of like a gender swap Notting Hill for 2021, basically. And Rose plays Jessie, who's this Kiwi woman living in London, and she falls for a guy, Tom Kapoor, who's played by Nikesh Patel. And she has a one-night stand with him on New Year's Eve, only to later find out that he is a massive movie star, but she didn't recognize him. But I guess the thing is that they kind of like each other and they want to see each other again, but obviously Tom being a movie star brings a lot of challenges into them actually getting together. Like Jessie brings him back to her flat after the second episode, and her housemate / best friend Kate is so awkward and like hilariously overwhelmed by his presence. Like when he goes to the toilet, she's like, "You're going to go to the Oscars." And yeah, that sort of ruins the sexy vibe. So, but like it's a will they, won't they, of course, the whole time. I mean, it's a rom-com, but meanwhile, like Jessie, she works in a cinema and as a nanny and just like basically in a kind of a bunch of dead-end jobs, and her relationships so far haven't worked out, and she's talking about wanting to go back to New Zealand. Like she's 28, feels like she hasn't achieved anything as she heads into her 30s, and that the time that she's spent overseas is a waste. I'm 33 now, so I've lived through that. I mean, that's your Saturn return, and the Saturn return is rough. I mean, Jessie and like I are not alone. I mean, Adele just wrote a whole album, 30, about the experience. But I guess from her perspective, suddenly there's this movie star into her and she feels super inadequate. I mean, at one point she says to him in an argument, "When people see us together, it's fucking ridiculous. It's one of those weird animal friendship shows where you see a Labrador and a hedgehog who are friends and everyone's like, that's not right. That's weird. But if it works for them, that's great." And he says, "I don't see it like that." And she's like, "Of course you fucking don't. You're the Labrador." But the show succeeds because the writing is really funny and dry, and like Jessie is super charming. And I don't know, like maybe it's because she's Kiwi. It sort of feels like Australians and New Zealanders and British people all have a similar sense of humour. And like her and Tom are really cute together. And Variety just named Rose one of their 25 best performers of 2021 because of this show. And Starstruck was number 9 on the Guardian's best shows of 2021. So
wow.
You're in safer hands than just mine if you decide to watch it. It's really funny. And they're only 20 minutes and it's 6 episodes. You can watch it in one sitting.
And what was that on?
ABC.
It's funny. It's been one of those weeks, hasn't it? I was off earlier this week. Wasn't feeling well. So I spent the day in bed and just stumbled on this movie. I think it's on Netflix. It's an American rom-com called Love Hard. Look, I'm normally not a rom-com fan, but kind of stars Jimmy O Yang, who's a stand-up comedian, was in Silicon Valley, Crazy Rich Asians. He's also written a book, How to America, An Immigrant's Guide to Disappointing Your Parents, which he must have done because his theme, I think even in his stand-up routine, is that he's forever disappointing his parents. There's Nina Dobrev, who was in Degrassi, The Next Generation, and The Vampire Diaries, and Harry Shum Jr., who was in Glee, Crazy Rich Asians, and Shadowhunt. The film was really cute and thoroughly enjoyable. It's about a journalist based in LA who writes, she's got a column, and really the column is about her disastrous dates. Anyway, so she decides to expand the search radius of the app that she's using and matches with a guy called Josh Lim, played by Jimmy O Yang. She forms a strong connection, through long phone calls, and they share a whole bunch of stuff, and it's cute as, and kind of quite realistic, the whole online thing, So she forms a strong connection with this guy and then decides that she's going to surprise him and travels to Lake Placid, New York, where they live, to surprise him for Christmas. She eventually arrives and goes to the house and discovers that she's been catfished, and that her handsome love interest is actually an Asian short man. He then reveals that he used his best friend's image and sets up a meeting between the two. She, in turn, lies about her interest in rock climbing to secure the hookup. It's a lot of lies, but interestingly, they explore what we just discussed, a lot of the online dating themes, the lies, the traps. It's not a cerebral film by any means, but it was a great escape and touches nicely on the giddiness of meeting someone that you genuinely like. It was really cute, and I'd probably watch it again, and it's not my thing. Look, like I said, it's not cerebral, but...
I'm only into cerebral things.
It's this whole lockdown thing, you just want something that's light and bright.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, everyone I talk to, they're sort of approaching this year's finish line and everyone's completely fatigued.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be so easily forgiving of someone who catfished me.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, there's a woman on TikTok, scares the shit out of me.
Oh, anyway, the one you showed me.
Oh, yeah. And so for those of you who don't know, it's this woman who, I don't really know the purpose of her site, but she's really hot. She's got long hair, great teeth, great smile. Fantastic. Anyway, and so you kind of get sucked into this vibe of this really beautiful woman, and then she pops out her snapping teeth, right? And then takes her makeup off, and she looks like she's 80 and rides a broom.
Yeah, and all she takes off her hair extensions, and everything is
bizarre,
gone.
Right? I mean, that's kind of being catfished anyway. But I just find.
Yeah, when you showed me that, I realised I need to get better at makeup because she transformed herself so well.
But imagine, what happens if you date someone like that, you meet them, you don't have any sleepovers, you never see them without any makeup, you never see them without their teeth in, right, or out. What happens? One day you're going to wake up and the truth will be revealed.
Well, that's also it. If you want to have a genuine relationship, you want to genuinely know that person, and that includes how, what they are like when they're real, and nothing about that is real. And that's the other thing, I guess, about online dating is that now you've got all these filters. You can make yourself physically transform yourself and look like a different person, and it looks real. One of my friends, Trent, is obsessed with Facetune, and he's really good at it. And he Facetuned these pictures of me and my friend Claire, and I put them on my Instagram, assuming that as a Instagram story, assuming that everyone would find it hilarious because it looked nothing like me. And people wrote me messages being like, "Oh my God, babe, you look so hot." I'm like, this is not my face.
I bet you it's your profile now.
No, it's fucking not. But that to me is so weird. And like if people that know me and have met me in real life can see that and just think I've done my makeup really well, I could you can make yourself thinner. There's apps for guys to paint abs on. Like you can put makeup on your face. Like I guess there's a look that comes with it, but yeah, it's just so.
It's not real. I mean, it's a worry. My next date, I'm going to go out in a G-string.
just a G-string.
And my boots. Nothing to hide, nothing to see.
In the Mardi Gras parade. But yeah, there's like memes of it now where people are face tuning like the Mona Lisa and stuff like that. And then Mona Lisa looks really, really hot and like...
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's really
all the masterpieces. So funny what people come up with. So this is our 5th episode.
Yes.
Woo! And if you like what you hear, don't forget that we are on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and that
all the things.
You could all the things, and like us and follow us because we like you being with us.
What are our handles?
What are our handles? I don't know. I have love handles. I have love handles. That's all I have.
He will hate us for this part.
Anyway, hey, look, always a pleasure, Jackie Keast.
It's always a pleasure, Mark Kuban.
See you next week.
See you.
We're on the tools.